Ian Samuels here, former Supreme Court clerk, now law professor. As you might imagine, the left is a little bit unhappy with the Supreme Court. Unlikely to change when the abortion decision comes down. Not to be outdone with hyperbole, Keith Olbermann tweeted, it has become necessary to dissolve the Supreme Court of the United States. First step is for the state. First step is for a state the court has now forced guns upon to ignore this ruling. Great, you're a court. Why and how do you think you can enforce the rulings? Well, I don't know. I'm old enough to remember when the rule of law was supposed to mean something around here.
Do you remember that poor clerk, I think her name was Kim Davis, who was threatened with jail time for not obeying the Supreme Court's decision about same-sex marriage in Obergefell? I mean, look, the one thing you can always tell for sure about people who say, well, it's time to get some independence from the Supreme Court is they are just on the losing side of the issues today. But I promise you, the next time that Keith Olbermann hears something from the Supreme Court that he likes, there'll be a lot of talk about the rule of law. So you really can't take these kinds of people too seriously, which is why no one does.
I think about today's ruling 6-3. Are we to believe now that this is the new makeup of the Supreme Court?
Yeah, a little bit. I think that, yes, the answer is these 6 justices, remember, are not just 6 Republican appointees. They are 6 people who were chosen very thoroughly to be quite conservative and to have a certain way of approaching the law, right? They were chosen out of a generation of people who were originalists, right? Who believed in a certain way of thinking about, for example, the Second Amendment, which is exactly what this opinion does. And not every conservative member of the Supreme Court is a thoroughgoing originalist like Justice Thomas, but this is exactly what you'd expect out of a court like this. And all you can say is the court delivered exactly what the people who named these justices to that court promised. This is exactly the kind of decision that people had in mind who wanted Republican presidents appointing Supreme Court justices. And it is exactly what Democrats said would happen too.
Yeah, no, we talked about this when the abortion decision leaked, is that this is not an accident and this is not a surprise, that this is exactly what President Trump promised when he said he was going to appoint people from the Federalist Society's list. I'm glad you talked about originalism and conservatism, because you think about if we go back to 1967, when the Black Panthers were protesting on the California state capitol steps, and they were doing so with weapons.
Yes.
And immediately, all of a sudden, the California state legislature took up a bill that would outlaw the carrying of weapons. And there was a governor at the time who had something to say about that. Take a listen. So is it really originalist, or is it just that everybody decides what originalism means based on the times?
Well, some days, Leland, I just couldn't love you anymore, because I love talking about the Black Panthers and Governor Reagan as an illustration that there was a time in this country when the left, I mean like the socialist, communist, real radical left, like the Black Panthers and guys like that, they thought of the right to bear arms the way that Karl Marx thought about it. Karl Marx said that under no circumstances should the working class surrender arms and armament. I mean, they should resist that by force if necessary, because he had the same idea that the Black Panthers had and that a lot of people have today, which is, look, I may not have complete faith that the ruling institutions of my country and their armed guards are always going to be people that have my best interests at heart. And you can see why you'd think that if you were a Black Panther. You can see why you'd think that if you were a German communist in the 1800s. And you can see why people would think that today. Because I promise you this much, powerful people will always have people with guns who work for them. And so I do understand that gun violence is bad. Yes, of course it's bad. But just remember that law and order conservatives used to have a problem with people bearing guns when their politics were different than some of the people today. And I think that is a helpful thing to remember, because, remember that left is many things. And some of us, there's a Socialist Rifle Association. I'm in it. We're cool.
And we always love having you on because you surprise us every time. And hey, wait 50 years and things will turn back around, I guess. It was good to see you, Ian. Thank you.
You too. See you later.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.